Commander Jake Martinez stood at the window of the council station, watching alien ships move through space like glowing insects. The massive station orbited Nexus Prime, the political heart of the galaxy. For 50 years, humans had been members of the Galactic Council. For 50 years, they had been treated like children. Jake wore the simple blue uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps. The fabric was cheap, the design basic. Other alien ambassadors wore robes made from materials that cost more than most human cities. They looked at Jake and his team like they were amusing pets. "The humans wish to speak again," said Ambassador Kexthor, his voice dripping with mockery. The tall, silver-skinned Zephyrian barely looked at Jake. "What do the children want now?" Jake kept his face calm. Inside, he counted each insult, each dismissal. Every slight was recorded and filed away. "We request better trade agreements for our mining operations," he said. "Earth provides rare minerals that many species need." The Corvan representative, a massive creature with dark green scales, laughed. "You provide raw materials because that is all you can do. Your ships are weak. Your technology is centuries behind ours. Be grateful we allow you to mine at all." Other council members nodded in agreement. The Ethereal Collective's representative, an ancient being of pure energy contained in a floating crystal, spoke with a voice like wind through caves. "Humanity serves its purpose. They dig in the dirt while we reach for the stars." Jake bowed his head as if accepting their judgment. "We understand our place," he said quietly. The aliens smiled at his submission. They had no idea what those words really meant. Far from the council station, deep in Earth's solar system, reality was very different. In the cold darkness of the Kuiper Belt, a massive structure hung in space. To any scanning ship, it looked like a large asteroid. Cratered and dead, it appeared to be nothing more than space rock. Admiral Lisa Kane walked through corridors that buzzed with activity. The hidden base called Erebus was larger than most cities. Thousands of humans worked in its depths, maintaining humanity's greatest secret. Through the station's real windows, not the fake ones showing empty space, Lisa could see the Shadow Fleet. 3,000 ships hung in perfect formation. Each one was a masterpiece of human engineering. Their hulls were black as space itself, covered in technology that bent light around them. When active, they became invisible to any known sensor. The smallest ship in the fleet could destroy anything the aliens called a battleship. "Status report," Lisa said to Captain Ben Torres. Ben was officially listed as a failure, kicked out of Earth's Space Force for incompetence. In reality, he commanded the dreadnought Nemesis, one of 12 ships capable of destroying planets. "All ships ready, Admiral," Ben replied. "The new quantum drives are working perfectly. We can reach any point in the galaxy in hours instead of months." He paused, looking at the datapad in his hands. "The aliens still think our fastest ships need weeks to travel between star systems." Lisa nodded. For 50 years, humans had carefully maintained this lie. Every public demonstration of human technology was deliberately sabotaged. Their greatest scientists pretended to struggle with problems they had solved decades ago. When alien observers visited Earth's shipyards, they saw only the 12 patrol ships that made up humanity's entire fleet. "What about our intelligence network?" Lisa asked. Captain Maya Phillips appeared on the screen from her position aboard a fake human trading vessel. In reality, her ship was packed with sensors more advanced than anything the galaxy had ever seen. "The Corvans are getting bolder," she reported. "They talk openly about taking human colonies. They think we're too weak to stop them." Through her disguised ship sensors, Maya had recorded years of alien conversations. She knew which species planned to exploit humanity, and which ones simply ignored them. Every insult, every threat, every dismissive laugh was stored in human databases. "The Zephyrians consider us barely intelligent," Maya continued. "The Ethereals think we're useful only as workers. The Corvans see us as easy targets for expansion." She smiled coldly. They have no idea what's coming. Back on the council station, Jake finished another humiliating session. The aliens had rejected every human request with barely hidden laughter. As he walked to his quarters, he passed alien tourists who pointed at him like he was an exhibit in a zoo. "Look, a human," one whispered to another. "I heard they still use chemical rockets for space travel." "Primitive creatures," the other replied. "But they mine rare minerals cheaply. That's something, I suppose." Jake entered his room and activated a communication device hidden in his luggage. The signal would never be detected by alien technology because it used principles they had never discovered. "Report," came Admiral Kane's voice from across the galaxy. They grow more arrogant each day, Jake said. The Corvins spoke openly about taking human worlds. They believe we can't defend ourselves. Good, Lisa replied. Let them think that. How much longer do you think we can maintain the deception? Jake considered the question. The smarter species are starting to ask questions. They wonder how humans survived this long if we're really as primitive as we appear. But their arrogance blinds them to the obvious answers. And the Council's protection treaties? Worthless, Jake said bitterly. Today they debated for 3 hours whether protecting civilian populations was really necessary. The Corvins argued that acceptable losses should be allowed in territorial disputes. Admiral Kane was quiet for a moment. The President is growing tired of this game. How many human colonies are we willing to sacrifice to maintain our cover? None, Jake said firmly. The moment they cross that line, we reveal everything. Understood? Continue your mission. Remember, the fate of humanity depends on appearing weak while we're actually the strongest force in the galaxy. The communication ended, leaving Jake alone with his thoughts. Through his window, he could see alien ships moving freely through space. They believed they ruled the galaxy through strength and technology. They had no idea that the greatest predator in galactic history had been hiding among them for 50 years. In the hidden depths of space, the Shadow Fleet waited. 3,000 ships carrying weapons that could reshape the balance of power in the galaxy. Humanity had spent 5 decades preparing for the day when the mask would finally come off. That day was coming soon. The aliens had grown too confident, too cruel. They were about to learn that sometimes the most dangerous creatures are the ones that don't look dangerous at all. The attack came without warning. Captain Danny Foster was drinking coffee in his quarters aboard the colony ship New Dawn when the alarm started screaming. Through his window, he could see the peaceful world of Haven 7 spinning slowly below. 2 million human colonists lived on that planet, farming and mining in the warm valleys between purple mountains. Then the Corvin war fleet dropped out of hyperspace. 12 massive battleships appeared like dark thunderclouds against the stars. Their hulls were painted with the red symbols of the Corvin Federation. War Marshal Vexkar commanded the fleet from his flagship, the Pride of Corva. To him, this was not an invasion. It was simply taking what belonged to the strong. All human vessels, you will surrender immediately, came the transmission. Vexkar's voice was cold and mechanical. This world is now property of the Corvin Federation. Resistance will be met with destruction. Danny looked at his small fleet, 2 colony ships and 3 patrol boats, ancient vessels with outdated weapons and armor that wouldn't stop a determined child with a rock. Against 12 Corvin battleships they were nothing, but they were all that stood between the Corvins and 2 million innocent people. All ships, this is Captain Foster, Danny said into his communicator. We're going to buy time for the evacuation. Get as many people off that planet as possible. Sir, his first officer said quietly, we can't win this fight. I know, Danny replied, but we can make them pay for every minute. The Corvin bombardment began. Bright beams of energy lanced down from space, turning human settlements into craters of molten glass. The colony's defense grid lasted 30 seconds before being vaporized. Civilian ships tried to flee the planet, but most were destroyed before they could escape the atmosphere. Danny's small fleet charged forward. The New Dawn's ancient weapons fired uselessly against Corvin shields. The 3 patrol boats darted between the giant enemy ships like insects attacking elephants. They managed to damage 1 Corvin vessel before being swatted aside. On the planet's surface, Corvin ground troops began landing. They moved through human settlements with efficient brutality, killing anyone who resisted and enslaving those who surrendered. The purple valleys of Haven 7 began to run red with blood. Captain, we've lost 2 patrol boats, his weapons officer reported. The 3rd is heavily damaged. Hull breaches on decks 4 through 7. Danny watched the massacre below. Corvin soldiers were herding human families into camps. Children cried for their parents. The elderly were simply shot where they stood. This was what the galaxy called a minor territorial adjustment. Set ramming course for the flagship, Danny ordered. His crew looked at him in shock. Sir, that's suicide, his first officer said. No, Danny replied calmly. Suicide is pointless. This serves a purpose. Now he activated the ship-wide communications. This is the captain. We're going to ram the Corvin flagship. All escape pods will launch in 60 seconds. Get to safety and tell Earth what happened here. The new dawn turned toward the Pride of Corva. The massive Corvan ship barely noticed the approaching human vessel. To them, it was just another weak human ship about to be destroyed. But Danny had one advantage. The Corvans didn't know that human colony ships carried antimatter cores. They were designed for terraforming operations, not weapons. But antimatter didn't care what it was originally intended for. The new dawn struck the Pride of Corva at full speed. The explosion lit up space like a newborn star. When the light faded, both ships were gone. The remaining Corvan fleet found themselves facing an empty graveyard where their flagship had been. War Marshal Vexkar was dead. His replacement, Commander Thokvar, stared at the debris field in disbelief. "How did they do that?" he whispered. Their ship was practically unarmed. The answer would come later. For now, the Corvans completed their conquest of Haven 7. The few surviving humans were rounded up and shipped off-world as slaves. The planet was officially renamed Corva 7 and marked as Corvan territory. News of the attack reached Earth 3 days later. President Maria Santos sat in the war room deep beneath Washington, watching footage from the few escape pods that had survived. Her face was carved from stone as she watched Corvan soldiers execute human civilians. "Madam President," said her military advisor, "the Galactic Council has called an emergency session. They're debating whether the attack even violated Council law." Maria's laugh was bitter. "Of course they are. Let me guess. The Corvans claim it was a legitimate territorial expansion." "Yes, ma'am. They say Haven 7 was disputed territory. The Ethereal Collective supports their claim. The Zephyrians are calling for a diplomatic solution." "A diplomatic solution," Maria repeated. 2 million of our people are dead or enslaved, and they want to talk about it." Admiral Kane appeared on the main screen from her hidden command post. "Orders, Madam President?" Maria stood slowly. For 50 years, she had watched humanity play the role of the weak, helpless species. They had been insulted, dismissed, and treated like children. But this crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. "Activate Operation Revelation," she said quietly. "I want every Corvan military asset in known space destroyed within 72 hours." "Understood, ma'am." "What about maintaining our cover?" "Cover's blown the moment we start shooting," Maria replied. "The galaxy wanted to see what happens when you murder human children. They're about to find out." In the Galactic Council chambers, the emergency session continued. Ambassador Kexthor spoke eloquently about the need for peaceful solutions. The ethereal representative argued that territorial disputes were natural between expanding species. A few minor races called for justice, but they were ignored. Jake Martinez sat quietly in the human section, watching the debate with dead eyes. Around him, aliens discussed the murder of his people like it was an accounting error. Some actually smiled when they thought he wasn't looking. "The human delegation seems upset," one alien whispered to another. "Perhaps they didn't understand that this is how the galaxy really works." "They'll learn," the other replied. "The strong take what they want from the weak. That's natural law." Jake activated his hidden communicator. "This is Martinez. The council debate is a joke. They're actually debating whether genocide is legal as long as you call it something else." "Copy that," came Admiral Kane's voice. "Operation Revelation begins in 6 hours. Get ready to watch the galaxy change forever." Jake closed the communicator and looked around the chamber. These aliens had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. They believed their technology and their numbers made them invincible. They had no idea that humanity had been preparing for this moment since the day they joined the Council. In a few hours, the galaxy would learn that the most dangerous predator is the one that doesn't look dangerous, the one that watches and waits and learns, the one that lets you think you're safe right up until the moment you're not. The Corvans had wanted to see human weakness. Instead, they were about to witness the unleashing of humanity's greatest strength, the patient fury of a species that had been underestimated for far too long. The Corvan celebration lasted exactly 72 hours. Commander Thokvar stood on the bridge of his new flagship, watching the red sun of the Corvan home system rise over their conquered worlds. Haven 7 was just the beginning. With humans proven to be as weak as expected, the Federation could expand freely into human space. That confidence lasted until his sensors detected something impossible. "Sir," his communications officer said, voice shaking, "I'm reading massive energy signatures appearing throughout the system, but there's nothing there." "Check your instruments," Thokvar snapped. "Human ships are centuries behind our technology. They couldn't hide from our sensors even if they wanted to. Then space began to shimmer. Ships materialized out of nothing. First dozens, then hundreds. Sleek black vessels that seemed to drink in starlight, appearing from empty space like nightmares becoming real. They moved with impossible grace, their hulls reflecting no light, their weapons already powering up. "What are those?" Takvar whispered. Captain Amy Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the battleship Retribution, watching Corvin's ships scramble in panic below. For 50 years she had waited for this moment. Every insult humanity had endured, every dismissive laugh from alien diplomats, every time they had been called primitive, it all led to this. "This is Captain Rodriguez of the Human Defense Fleet," she said into the communications array. "You have 72 hours to remember Haven 7. Your time is up." The first volley of human weapons lit up space. Plasma fusion torpedoes, each one carrying the destructive power of a small star, streaked toward Corvin positions. The aliens' impenetrable shields lasted about as long as tissue paper in a hurricane. The fortress station that guarded the Corvin homeworld simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there, a massive structure that had protected the system for centuries. The next moment there was only expanding debris and the fading glow of superheated metal. "Impossible," Takvar breathed. "Their weapons shouldn't be able to do that." War Marshal Vexkar's replacement was about to learn that human technology wasn't behind anyone's, it was decades ahead of anything the galaxy had ever seen. Throughout Corvin space, similar scenes played out. Human ships emerged from quantum stealth in 17 different systems simultaneously. Ancient Corvin outposts that had stood for millennia were reduced to scrap metal in minutes. Their proud war fleets, the terror of weaker species, burned like candles in a windstorm, Captain. Tony Clark materialized his strike force around the Corvin military academy on Corva Prime. The massive complex housed 50,000 of their best soldiers and officers. It was protected by orbital platforms and a fleet of guard ships. "Attention, Corvin forces," Tony announced. "This is humanity's answer to the murder of our children. Surrender immediately or share their fate." The Corvin response was predictable. They opened fire with everything they had. Energy beams and missile salvos filled space, all aimed at the human fleet. The aliens were about to learn another lesson about human technology. The human ships didn't dodge the incoming fire. They didn't need to. Their adaptive armor absorbed directed energy weapons like they were flashlights. The few missiles that got through were intercepted by defensive systems that tracked thousands of targets simultaneously. Then the humans returned fire. Kinetic rail systems fired projectiles at a significant fraction of light speed. The rounds went through Corvin hulls like they were made of cardboard. In 10 minutes, the entire guard fleet was floating wreckage. The orbital platforms lasted slightly longer, about 12 minutes. "This is impossible," the Corvin Academy commander transmitted. "Your ships can't be this advanced. Our intelligence said you were primitive." "Your intelligence was wrong," Tony replied simply. Then he gave the order to target the Academy itself. Back in the home system, Takvar watched his fleet die around him. Human ships moved through space like they were dancing, their impossible agility making Corvin targeting systems useless. When the aliens managed to hit them at all, it did no damage. When the humans returned fire, Corvin ships exploded. "Sir," his weapons officer called out, "our main guns aren't even scratching their armor." "How is that possible?" Takvar didn't answer. He was staring at the human ship approaching his position. It was massive, easily twice the size of his flagship, but it moved like a fighter craft. Its weapons were already targeting his bridge. "This is Captain Ben Torres of the Dreadnought Nemesis," came the transmission. "You wanted to see human weakness. Instead, you found human strength. Surrender now and you might live to learn from your mistake." The Pride of Corva had been the most advanced ship in the Corvin fleet. Its armor could withstand planet-killer weapons. Its shields could stop anything short of a stellar collapse. Takvar had been proud to command such a vessel. Ben Torres destroyed it with a single shot. The message spread through Corvin space faster than their fleeing ships. Humanity had revealed technology that shouldn't exist. Ships that could become invisible, weapons that ignored all known defenses, armor that absorbed any attack. In 6 hours, the mighty Corvin Federation's military power was reduced to scattered survivors running for their lives. In the Galactic Council chambers, the emergency session descended into chaos. Representatives shouted at each other in dozens of languages while others sat in stunned silence. The humans had gone from weakest species to unstoppable force in a single day. How did we miss this? Ambassador Kexthor demanded. Where did these ships come from? Jake Martinez stood slowly. Around him, aliens who had spent decades mocking humanity now looked at him with fear. The change was remarkable. Yesterday he had been an amusing pet. Today he was the representative of the most powerful military force in the galaxy. You missed it because you weren't looking, Jake said calmly. You were too busy feeling superior to notice that we were building the greatest fleet in galactic history. But your technology, the ethereal representative protested. We've seen your ships. They're centuries behind ours, Jake smiled. It wasn't a pleasant expression. You've seen what we wanted you to see. Every demonstration, every test, every example of human technology you've observed was carefully designed to make you think we were primitive. The implications hit the chamber like a physical blow. For 50 years, humanity had been playing a game while everyone else thought it was real. They had deliberately appeared weak while building strength that dwarfed anything the galaxy had ever seen. The Corvin attack on Haven 7 crossed a line. Jake continued. You debated whether genocide was legal while our children burned. That debate is now over. Humanity will ensure it never happens again. Are you threatening us? Kexthor asked, his voice shaking. No, Jake replied. I'm explaining the new reality. The galaxy spent 50 years teaching us that the strong do whatever they want to the weak. Congratulations. We learned that lesson very well. News of the Corvin defeat spread across the galaxy at light speed. Intelligence agencies that had dismissed humanity scrambled to understand how they had missed such massive technological advancement. Military leaders who had laughed at human weakness suddenly found themselves calculating how many ships they would need to survive a human attack. The answer, they realized with growing horror, was probably more ships than they had. Admiral Kane stood in the command center of Erebus, watching tactical displays show the complete destruction of Corvin military power. 50 years of careful planning had paid off. The galaxy now knew that humanity was not the helpless species they had pretended to be. Status report, she ordered. All primary objectives achieved, Captain Maya Phillips reported. Corvin military assets eliminated. No human casualties. The survivors are spreading word of our capabilities across the galaxy. Good, Lisa said. The next phase begins now. How are the other species reacting? Panic mostly. The Zephyrians are requesting emergency diplomatic contact. The Ethereals are offering reparations for Haven 7. Several minor species are asking for protection pacts. Lisa nodded. Phase 1 was complete. Humanity had revealed its true strength and broken the most aggressive military power in the galaxy. Now came the harder part, deciding what to do with that strength. The galaxy had spent 50 years underestimating humanity. That mistake had cost them everything. The Ethereal Collective had ruled the galaxy for over 10,000 years. Their representative, the ancient being called Thisara, had witnessed the rise and fall of 100 civilizations. She had never been forced to beg for anything, until now. The collective formally apologizes for our miscalculation regarding the Haven 7 incident, she said, her energy form flickering with what might have been embarrassment. We offer full reparations to humanity for any losses incurred. President Maria Santos sat across the negotiating table in what had once been the Corvin embassy. The building still smelled of smoke from the panic fires when news of their fleet's destruction reached Nexus Prime. Around the table sat representatives from every major galactic power, all trying to understand their new reality. Reparations won't bring back our dead, Maria said quietly, but they're a start. What we want is assurance that this will never happen again. Of course, Thisara agreed quickly. The collective supports stronger protections for all civilian populations. We always have. Jake Martinez, now promoted to Admiral, watched the proceedings with cold satisfaction. These same beings had spent the previous week debating whether genocide was legally acceptable. Now they couldn't agree fast enough to humanity's demands. Captain Alex Turner commanded humanity's new flagship, the Leviathan. The massive vessel hung in space above Haven 7 like a metal moon, its weapons aimed at the Corvin occupation forces below. When the ship had emerged from quantum stealth, every Corvin soldier on the planet had immediately surrendered. This is Captain Turner to all Corvin ground forces, he announced. You have 30 minutes to evacuate this world. Any soldier found on the surface after that time will be considered an enemy combatant. The evacuation was the fastest military withdrawal in galactic history. Corvin transport ships fled the planet carrying soldiers who looked like they had seen ghosts. In a way, they had. They had seen the ghost of their own arrogance come back to haunt them. Grace Miller stood in the ruins of New Haven City, watching human medical ships land to treat the survivors. She had been the civilian administrator of Haven 7 before the attack. Now she was the voice of 2 million murdered colonists, testifying before the Galactic Council about Corvin atrocities. They didn't just kill our people, she told the assembled representatives. They made sport of it. Corvin soldiers took pictures with human bodies. They broadcast executions for entertainment. Children were separated from their parents and sold to slave markets. The testimony was being broadcast across the galaxy. Species that had supported the Corvin action found themselves explaining to their own people why they had endorsed such brutality. Public opinion shifted like a tide, and politicians scrambled to distance themselves from their previous positions. But humanity's revelation had consequences beyond politics. Deep in the void between galaxies, ancient sensors detected the energy signatures of human weapons. The Void Hunters, machine intelligences that had slept for millions of years, began to stir. Captain Steve Harris led the first post-revelation exploration mission. His small fleet established new human colonies on 12 worlds, each one protected by hidden defense platforms that made the old Corvin fortresses look like children's toys. The galaxy watched nervously as humanity began expanding, no longer constrained by the fiction of weakness. Planetary Defense Grid online, his chief engineer reported as they established Firebase Alpha on a world near former Corvin space. Anyone trying to attack this colony is going to have a very bad day. Steve nodded, watching alien trade ships carefully maintaining safe distances from human territory. Word had spread quickly. Humanity protected its own with overwhelming force. The days when human colonies could be attacked with impunity were over. Back at the Galactic Council, the political landscape continued shifting. The Zephyrian Empire, once dismissive of human capabilities, now actively sought technological exchanges. Ambassador Kexthor spoke very differently to Admiral Martinez than he had just weeks before. Perhaps our two peoples could benefit from closer cooperation, he suggested carefully. The Zephyrian Empire has always valued strong allies. Funny, Jake replied. Last month you called us barely evolved primates playing at civilization. What changed your mind? Kexthor's silver skin flushed darker. There may have been misunderstandings about human capabilities. There were no misunderstandings, Jake said coldly. You saw exactly what you expected to see because you wanted to feel superior. The only thing that changed is that you're scared now. The fear was real. Intelligence reports from across the galaxy painted a terrifying picture of human military capability. Their ships used technology that shouldn't exist. Their weapons operated on principles that alien scientists couldn't understand. Most frightening of all, they had hidden this power for 50 years while everyone else thought they were primitive. If humans could maintain such a deception for half a century, what else were they hiding? Captain Nicole Adams received the priority alert while conducting training exercises with allied fleets. Species that had once mocked human technology now sent their best officers to learn from Earth's military academies. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Captain, we're receiving a distress signal from the ethereal homeworld, her communications officer reported. They're under attack by unknown forces. Nicole frowned. After the Corvin defeat, no one was stupid enough to attack major galactic powers. The political situation was too unstable, and everyone knew humanity would respond to large-scale civilian casualties. Unknown forces? She asked. Get me more details. The reports that came in made Nicole's blood run cold. The attackers weren't aliens. They were machines. Ancient, powerful, and utterly ruthless. They had appeared without warning and begun systematically destroying everything in the ethereal home system. This is different, she told Admiral Kane during their emergency conference. These aren't conquest fleets. They're extinction fleets. They're trying to wipe out the ethereals completely. Lisa Kane studied the tactical data with growing concern. The attacking ships used technology that made even human advances look modest. Worse, they showed signs of adaptation, learning from each engagement and modifying their tactics accordingly. The ethereals are requesting immediate assistance, Lisa said. Thaisara herself sent the message. She's begging us to save her people. The request put humanity in an impossible position. The Ethereals had supported the Corvin attack on Haven 7 just weeks earlier. They had argued that civilian casualties were acceptable in territorial disputes. Now they wanted human protection. "What are your orders, Admiral?" Nicole asked. Lisa was quiet for a long moment. Through the command center's windows she could see the hidden fleet that had shattered Corvin power in a single day. Humanity had revealed its strength to punish those who murdered their people. Now they faced a choice that would define their role in the galaxy. "Full fleet deployment," she ordered finally. "We're going to save them." "Ma'am?" Nicole asked in surprise. "After what they supported?" "Because that's who we are," Lisa replied. "We don't let people face extinction while we watch in indifference. That's what separated us from them in the first place." The human fleet that jumped to hyperspace toward the ethereal homeworld was the largest military force ever assembled. Ships that had remained hidden for decades emerged from secret bases throughout human space. The galaxy watched in awe as humanity revealed the true scope of its power. President Santos addressed the galaxy from Earth as the fleet departed. "We are not humanity's military because we enjoy war," she said. "We are humanity's military because someone must stand between civilization and the darkness that waits beyond the stars." The message was broadcast to every inhabited world. Species that had mocked human weakness now watched human ships racing to save their former enemies. The galaxy was beginning to understand that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their ships. It was their refusal to become the monsters that others expected them to be. The battle for the ethereal homeworld lasted 18 hours. Captain Nicole Adams led the human fleet against an enemy that had been harvesting civilizations since before Earth had developed complex life. The Void Hunters were machines, but they were machines built by beings whose technology made current galactic powers look primitive. "Enemy ships adapting to our weapons fire," her tactical officer reported. "They're learning our attack patterns." Nicole watched the tactical display as ancient machine ships modified their defenses in real time. These weren't simple automated weapons. They were artificial intelligences that had survived the destruction of their creators millions of years ago, and they were very good at killing organic life. "Then we changed the patterns," she said calmly. "All ships implement Protocol 7. Random targeting, maximum aggression." The human fleet scattered into smaller groups, each one attacking from a different angle. Their weapons fired in seemingly random patterns that made adaptation impossible. When the machines tried to learn one attack style, the humans switched to another. It was controlled chaos, and it was devastating. Captain Amy Rodriguez commanded a squadron of destroyers that danced through the enemy formation like deadly birds. Her ships were outnumbered 10-1, but human technology had one advantage the Void Hunters couldn't adapt to fast enough. It was unpredictable. "Target their command ship," Amy ordered. "All weapons, full power." The massive Void Hunter vessel tried to defend itself, but human plasma fusion torpedoes punched through its adaptive shields. The explosion lit up space as one of the ancient machines finally died. On the planet below, Thesara watched the battle through sensors that barely functioned. The Void Hunters had systematically destroyed most ethereal technology, leaving her people helpless. Ancient beings that had ruled the galaxy for millennia were reduced to hiding in underground shelters while machines hunted them. "The humans are winning," one of her advisors reported in amazement. "They're actually destroying the harvesters." Thesara felt something she hadn't experienced in thousands of years: gratitude. The species she had dismissed as primitive was saving her people from extinction. The beings she had considered barely intelligent were fighting. Monsters that her ancient civilization couldn't stop. The tide of battle turned when Captain Ben Torres brought the dreadnought Nemesis into close combat. The massive human ship engaged the Void Hunter flagship in a duel that shook space itself. Energy beams that could melt planets struck armor that absorbed them like gentle rain. "Their main weapon is charging," his weapons officer warned. "Power levels off the charts." "So are ours," Ben replied grimly. "Fire everything." The two ships fired simultaneously. For a moment, space between them turned white as pure energy met pure energy. Then the Void Hunter flagship cracked apart like an egg, its ancient hull finally meeting something it couldn't resist. With their command ship destroyed, the remaining machines began retreating. They had learned something important. Organic life had evolved beyond their ability to easily harvest. The humans represented something new, something dangerous enough to make ancient machines reconsider their strategy. Enemy forces withdrawing. Nicole reported to Admiral Kane. The ethereal homeworld is secure. The aftermath of the battle reshaped galactic politics forever. Species that had ruled for millennia realized they owed their continued existence to the humans they had once mocked. The ethereals in particular faced a humbling truth. Without human intervention, their 10,000-year civilization would have ended in a single day. Admiral Jake Martinez stood before the reformed Galactic Council 6 months after the revelation. The chamber had been rebuilt on Earth, orbiting humanity's home planet instead of the neutral Nexus Prime. The symbolism wasn't lost on anyone. The galaxy's new center of power was wherever humans chose to place it. The Joint Defense Command is now operational, he announced. Human officers are training allied crews in advanced tactics and defensive strategies. We're sharing technology with species that demonstrate genuine commitment to protecting civilian populations. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Representatives who had once dismissed human requests now competed to join the human-led Defense Alliance. The protection of Earth's children had become the most valuable resource in the galaxy. Captain Steve Harris oversaw the expansion of human territory as new colonies were established throughout former Corvin space. Each world was protected by defense platforms that could destroy entire fleets. The message was clear: humanity would expand, but they would never again be vulnerable to surprise attacks. Colony Ship Horizon reporting successful landing on New Terra, his communications officer announced. Population transfer proceeding on schedule. Steve nodded, watching the data streams from dozens of new human worlds. Each colony represented millions of people who would never have to fear alien aggression. The days when human civilians could be murdered for territorial gain were over forever. Grace Miller, now serving as humanity's liaison for displaced populations, worked with refugees from across the galaxy. The human victory over the Void Hunters had saved more than just the ethereals. It had protected dozens of smaller species that would have been harvested. Next, the Altarian delegation is requesting permanent settlement rights on New Haven Colony. She reported to the Colonial Administration. They're offering full technological exchange in return for protection. It was a common request. Species throughout the galaxy wanted to live under human protection, knowing that Earth's children would fight to the death to defend their adopted homes. Human space became a beacon of safety in an uncertain galaxy. President Santos stood on the observation deck of the new Council station, watching ships from 100 worlds move peacefully through Earth's orbital space. The station was 10 times larger than the old one, designed to accommodate the massive increase in diplomatic traffic. Status report on galactic security, she requested from Admiral Kane. All major threats neutralized, Lisa replied. The Corvin Federation has formally surrendered and agreed to war crimes tribunals. The ethereals are providing full reparations for their role in the Haven 7 incident. Minor conflicts are being resolved through the Joint Defense Command. And the Void Hunters? Gone for now, but not destroyed. They'll be back eventually, but the galaxy will be ready. We're establishing early warning networks throughout the Outer Rim. No one will face extinction alone while humanity stands watch. Maria nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility that came with galactic leadership. Humanity had revealed its strength to protect its people. Now they faced the harder challenge of using that strength wisely. In the depths of space, the Shadow Fleet continued its eternal patrol. Ships that had once hidden from galactic sight now moved openly through the void, their presence a reminder that the galaxy's protectors were always watching. The children of Earth had become the guardians of civilization itself. Captain Tony Clark commanded the patrol cruiser Vigilant as it investigated reports of pirate activity near the galactic rim. Such incidents were rare now. Few criminals were stupid enough to operate in space patrolled by human ships. Distress signal from the trading vessel Prosperity, his communications officer reported. They're under attack by unknown vessels. Unknown vessels attacking civilian ships? Tony asked with grim amusement. Some people never learn. All hands to battle stations. The pirate ships fled the moment they detected human energy signatures. Word had spread throughout the criminal underworld. Attacking ships under human protection was suicide. The galaxy had become a much safer place for honest traders. Admiral Martinez concluded his address to the Galactic Council with words that would be remembered for centuries. Humanity asks for nothing more than peace, but we will settle for nothing less than justice. We have shown the galaxy what happens to those who murder the innocent. We have also shown what happens to those who ask for our protection. The choice facing every species is simple: stand with us in defending civilization, or stand aside while we defend it without you. But understand this clearly. Never again will civilized beings face extinction while others debate whether helping them is convenient. The chamber erupted in applause. Representatives who had once mocked human weakness now competed to demonstrate their loyalty to humanity's cause. The galaxy had learned that the most dangerous predator was also its greatest protector. As the session ended, Jake looked out at the stars visible through the station's massive windows. 50 years ago, humanity had been alone and vulnerable. Now they were the guardians of 1,000 worlds, protectors of species that spanned the galaxy. The humans had kept their promise. Never again would their people face extinction while bureaucrats debated procedure. The galaxy was safer because Earth's children refused to become the monsters their enemies had expected them to be. And in the darkness between stars, both friend and foe remembered the lesson of humanity's revelation. Sometimes the greatest strength comes from those who appear the weakest, and the most dangerous protectors are those who understand the true cost of failure.